Baby, be in love with your fantasies. I can be a star, make us high so bright. Welcome to my dungeon, this is ecstasy. Let me play the fan.
What's good, YouTube? It's your girl Asia.
And it's your boy BJ. And we back like we never left. And we back in the building, y'all. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. And y'all, we about to dibble and dabble into this one with Joe Rogan. Now, on this particular video, this clip, Joe Rogan actually learns about Thomas Sowell.
Okay.
So I wanted to check this one out because I believe they're on his podcast. They're on his podcast talking, and he kind of learns about him, I believe, on air. And just want to see what he thinks about Thomas Sowell.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, this should be interesting. Yeah. I'm curious to know what he says, what his reaction was.
I want to see what he kind of knows, if he knows anything about him, and,
yeah.
if he does, like what he does in particular in regards to him, because he does, Thomas Sowell's an author, historian, all that stuff.
Yeah, I feel like I'm still learning about him. Like I told you, I had heard his name before and seen him here and there, like little bits and pieces of him. But like I'm learning about him as well, so I'm just curious to see how somebody else might, have
as far as what they think about him, as far as like their first actual understanding of him, first kind of experience like that,
Yeah.
So let's check out Joe Rogan, y'all.
Okay.
Y'all ready?
Let's go.
Okay.
So, do you know Thomas Sowell?
I know that name. Why do I know that name?
Thomas Sowell is a big, famous...
Look at Jimi Hendrix on the wall behind him.
I see him.
Did you see that?
I see him.
So, do you know Thomas Sowell?
I know that name. Why do I know that name?
Thomas Sowell is a big, famous conservative. He's at Stanford. He's at the Hoover Institute, I think. Anyway, so, within this... first, just to set all this up, we should set up briefly how does culture work, right? And the way culture works is that it, like genetic evolution, it works based on blind copying. So what ends up happening is that you are in awe of people, right? You look up to people. And so you blindly copy the things they do. And specifically, you start by blindly copying from the outside, and then you work in. Thomas Sowell is a black guy, right? Okay. And Thomas Sowell has, for years and years and years, been trying to fight racism. But he's been trying to fight racism by having a conversation about culture. Right? And the fact that there are essentially two different sort of, we're speaking broadly here, right? But this is for the purposes of communication. We're going to tell a simple story to start off with, right? So broadly speaking, he puts two different cultures of people with dark skin next to each other. And one culture is these people from the West Indies. And one culture is this group of people who grew up in the South with slavery and all that sort of stuff. Now, what one group, the West Indies group, does really well. So a lot of the successful black people like Colin Powell, are originally from that cultural heritage. The other group is the group that you find in ghettos and African-American communities and all of that sort of stuff. They don't do well, right? They don't get good education. They, shoot each other. There are all these sorts of things. And the reason why Sowell has been telling this story is because he's been trying to say, when liberals look at the people in ghettos, they say, racism. That's why they're not succeeding. And Sowell is saying, no, it's not. Because if you look at this group from the West Indies, they also came from the experience of slavery. There was slavery in the West Indies. They are also black, so they also face racism, and yet they do well. So it has to be something else. And that other thing is the fact that these black people who are in the South, there's always been a big question, were black people robbed of their culture? Or did they preserve their authentic African culture? And what Sowell is saying is that they were robbed of their culture, and so they picked up the culture of the people around them. And the people around them were rednecks. And if you look...
Do you see how deep that is? Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's deep.
I never thought about it like that.
Wow.
It makes sense, though. I never thought about it like that, though. Like,
I never
but he's
thought
right,
about
though.
that.
Because when you think of, y'all, I agree.
I never thought of that. I have to ponder on that for a second. I never thought of that. Yeah, I never thought of that. That's interesting that he said that. But I do feel that, he's kind of going in that way as far as like culture and things that he's saying in regards to like like African Americans here, especially like here, like in the South, just period in the United States, as far as he's saying, it's more of a cultural thing.
So almost like as if they never knew.
Because he's saying,
or is it that they may not have ever known to do right because they were robbed of their culture, which means, like you said, they just kind of gravitated and did the things of the people around them and just kind of took that on as the culture of which they live. You know what I mean?
Taking on a different identity than probably than what they were here to be. You know what I mean?
So,
they were here to have an African culture and heritage, obviously. You know. So with him saying that that's been taken and kind of stripped away from them, and then they kind of just adapt to their environment, it's, you know what I mean? It's almost like someone kind of losing their identity. Basically, that's what he said. I mean, that's what he said.
Yeah.
Culture of the people around them, and the people around them were rednecks.
Wow.
And if you look at the white redneck culture and the black redneck culture, they have a lot of the same values. They don't particularly respect education. They love Jesus. They use violence in their conflicts. And they, there's just, a lot of the same values and a lot of the same outcomes. And even Ebonics, which is, Black English, is actually all from the west of England. So it's actually this...
What?
It's from the west of England. So, for example, if you go to places like Cornwall, there used to be this amazing ads on British TV, right, for this Devon custard or whatever, and they would always say, Devon knows how they make it so creamy, and they all talk like this, right? And so it doesn't sound like Black English, but they do say things like, I be doing that, and we be doing this, and you be doing that, and they be doing that. And so there's that use of that copula be, right, where instead of saying I am, you are, he is, she is, they are, they just say I be, you be, we be, they be, which is the classic feature of Black English.
Wow. And then you hear me almost saying, I don't be caring. Look, I don't be caring. Y'all.
Wow.
Wow.
He breaking down the origin of Ebonics. And see, I want to go back and actually read about that too. What he's saying in regards to that coming from England.
This is good.
And that accent, and how that accent was like incorporated into the pronunciation of words based on who you were around to a degree.
Yo.
Man, this is deep. This is deep. This is deep.
Hey, we're on the path of discovery here, okay?
Wow.
That was okay.
Right? Where instead of saying I am, you are, he is, she is, they are, they just say I be, you be, we be, they be, which is the classic feature of Black English, African American vernacular English. Right. Now, the point is that...
Mind blower.
Now, let's imagine that, how do you think that Thomas Sowell has been received by liberal America?
That he's misguiding people.
Not well.
Not well. And so, for example, Sowell has a book called Black Rednecks, White Liberals. Okay? And his whole...
When we were kind of sitting around and like talking about Thomas Sowell when we did our last video, and we kind of start going back and like backtracking, I saw that as one of his books in one of his catalogs. I saw that. And the title of that one like stuck out to me, because when I saw it, I was like... And the cover of it already is very distinct, and I was like, I need to check that book out. I saw that as one of them. Yeah, because he has another one that's like social conflict. He has a lot of books, but
yeah,
I remember seeing that one.
Okay.
Called Black Rednecks, White Liberals. Okay, and his whole point is that, if you actually, and again, like Sowell is, he researches the shit out of this stuff. He really does his work. Now, if you look at the experience of African Americans after slavery, they start to make real progress, right? And a large part of the reason why they make progress is because you start to get a lot of people from New England, either, black people from New England or white people from New England, who come down and sort of reshape the culture. They create these schools, and they're teaching those New England values, right? It's those Puritan values of hard work, tenacity, all of that sort of stuff. And so there's all this progress. And you have people like Booker T. Washington. And Booker T. Washington was an actual slave. And then after he got his freedom, he got to go work in a salt mine, which is literally the worst job ever. And in Booker T. Washington's Up From Slavery, he tells this great story about seeing a schoolhouse, right? and that, you know, he thought that going into a schoolhouse was about as close to heaven on earth as you could get. Like, this is a dude who wanted an education really, really badly. And that's a lot of what you find in the, you know, early black experience in, you know, the post-slavery period. And in fact, you know, blacks, you know...
That is very important to know. He's saying about post-slavery that they were very into education, and now it's like that's like the least on some people's minds is education, you know. Wow, and just that span of time, you know.
Yeah,
that's important. That's important to know as well. I like that he just noted that.
I
even
wonder
though he just
where
gave one
they
example of
went
one person.
wrong. Like, where did they change that? When? Like, why?
Because that was like post-slavery days, and then as time continued on, and like he said, being around rednecks and being around like people like he said
that didn't care,
that particular name
that
he said that in general, as he categorized them as rednecks.
Got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Before sort of World War II actually had higher rates of marriage than whites. All of these sorts of things that, you know, are now supposedly a problem. And then there's this turnaround, right? The black experience starts to go south, right? It starts to get worse.
And what year is this around?
This is post-World War II, right? So
post-slavery, black people experience a rebounding.
They're starting to make some progress. There's ambition.
Progress.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, if in terms of books to read, like, you know, just because a large part of what I'm trying to do in general is really let's move to the place of all people are created equal. Like, let's remove all these stupid distinctions, right, and really live that principle. And the problem is that in order to really live that principle, you need a new narrative that beats slavery. So, you know, it's not, if you go and talk to racists, you can't just say racism is bad. Like, that doesn't destroy racism, right? What destroys racism is when you make sense of the things that they know, right? They see, you know, people who are violent in the ghettos, or they see crime, or they see a lack of education, or they see that Africa is poor. And you're able to tell a better story that makes sense of the things that they know, but also comes out with the conclusion, oh, we actually all have the same potential.
Absolutely, we do. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that.
Wow.
I discovered some very interesting things. You saw how Joe Rogan, he was like, mind blower. Like, that kind of blew his mind. And it did for me too, just in regards to just this short video, in regards to just this amount of information that he kind of disseminated from Thomas Sowell. Like, I don't know, like, that's super deep. I gotta really sit back and like think and ponder on that.
Yeah, I do
like,
too.
wow.
I mean, he did say, I mean, you know, hey, if he did a ton of research on it, and for him to come up with, like, and the crazy part is, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, it does make sense. You know, it ethically.
Those are facts.
You know what I mean? When you think about it, it's just like, oh, okay,
yeah.
that would make sense because, you know, I mean, even today, like, you know, you either like you become a product of the environment basically, and you adapt to that, or you make your way out of it and you do different because you know different, you see different, you feel different. But I don't.
Yeah, and Thomas Sowell, like he even said that he's like, you know, he's very, very deep into the research, obviously, as diverse as he's been in regards to just every diaspora, as far like just all of that, you know what I mean, as far as just culture. Like, he knows a lot of that, so him bringing up that information is very, very interesting as far as like his research.
So I wonder, like, how do you change the culture? Like, how do you cultivate that? How do you change that? Like, if that's the problem,
a good question too.
You know what I mean? Like, what can people do around those areas where that problem persists and cultivate a different culture? Like, how do you change that? You know, I know that that's one person at a time, you know, but is that possible? Do you think that's possible? It's almost like,
I don't know.
If you were to say, like, how do you just make gang members not be gang members anymore overnight?
Exactly. It's something that's going to have the same way that it eventually trickulated to what it is now. It's the same way. It's probably the same amount of time, if not twice as much time it's going to take to reverse it. Because, like he said, he's like, how are these groups of black people doing so much better than these groups of black people, and they come from like the same place?
Right.
You know, they have these people in the West Indies, and then you have black people like he said, in the ghettos in Africa, and African Americans in the ghetto and things like that. And it's like when he broke it down like that, that really makes you like think very on a deeper level. But definitely in regards to, like he said, like them losing your identity and then taking on or adapting to the environment that you're in or what you're around. That's very deep and profound for him to say that.
Yeah.
I definitely got to look into that and just like read some more things that he has, and just really like dive into it.
I'd be curious.
That, y'all, like,
very curious.
That's very, 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 very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Y'all let me know. Let us know what y'all thought about this. Oh, I just want to know what y'all thought when y'all first saw this. Because I know by now, obviously, if you're watching this, you've seen it. Probably a lot. Yeah. I'm just curious to know what you thought when you first seen that.
Yeah, he boggled my mind with that one right there.
Wow, I was not expecting for him to say that. I didn't know what to expect, but I thought okay.
And for him to like really kind of come to that conclusion through like all the research that he's done, I'm like, wow, like Thomas Sowell, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A little bit different, okay? But I can see like how, like he said, in terms of like liberal, however he said it, he was like, how do you think people see him, like politically, I guess, in a sense, like in the public eye, like liberals particularly is what he was referring to. And I'm just like, I can see how
how that's going to ruffle feathers, especially like along the lines of like politics for the most
and
part,
beliefs, cultural beliefs,
But I'm glad that we did this video because, like I said, I really took something from this right here.
Same. So, if y'all enjoyed this video, be sure you give us a big thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe. Smash the notification bell. Join the family, y'all. And if ain't nobody else told you, we love you. And we're going to see y'all in the next video, y'all.